Influence Church exists to help you know God, find freedom, discover purpose, and influence your world.
Wow, this is going to be fun. So for the last few weeks, we've been talking about vision and how important it is to have a vision, because without a vision, people perish. And in the month of January, we talk about dreams, about goals, about the unstoppable vision that we can receive from God, and how rewarding it is to pursue that. We talk about the importance of allowing Jesus to take the wheel, but more like not us taking our hands complete off the steering wheel and like close our eyes, because it's important to keep your eyes on the steering wheel when we are driving. But also idea of Jesus taking the wheel was more like Jesus putting his hands on our hands on the steering wheels and partnering with him to be able to reach the destination. Also, Kelly did 2 weeks ago talk about how important it is to have the right people in the car with you, because sometimes people can derail us or can support us to reach our destination. And last week, we talked about how important it is to keep our eyes on the dashboard and look at all those indicators. And we talk about having a balanced life from a spiritual, emotional, physical, work-related, family-related, and so forth. Today, we decided to have two amazing people, Jeff and Deb, that actually they have two great testimonies. And I'm really excited about today because I didn't have to prepare a message, and they are going to do all the teaching, preaching. But it's about the importance of testimonies, because testimonies are very powerful. And that being said, Jeff, would you like to share your story first?
Sure, we can do that. Can we hear me okay?
Right.
A little closer? Okay. First of all, I find this kind of amazing because my parents are here and they're going to be part of my testimony here today. And but I remember speech class back in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I would probably miss a week of school before wanting to do a speech. So this is kind of overcoming for me too. But I've gotten over that. I've spoken in front of people many times. But when Cataline asked me if I wanted to talk about my story, and it was in relation to the vision message that Influence is talking about, I'm like, my story is more a story of perseverance. And then I had to think about it, going, how do I wrap vision into that? And realistically, I thought back and I'm like, you know what? There's really 3 visions I had that came before my actual story started. The first one, I'm going to lay out the 3 visions I had, and then I'm going to come back and share what they were all about. The first one was a marriage that did not argue about money. That was my goal when I was probably 15, 16, 17 years old. I'll come back to that one in a second. I wanted to have a home with land so that, my kids could have go-karts, snowmobiles, areas to run, things like that, and I'm going to come back to that one as well. And then the third vision or goal or dream that I had was I wanted to help other people get ahead in life. Okay? So back to number 1, the marriage that didn't argue about money. So when I was 15, I saw perseverance and a lot of arguing. My parents tend to argue a little bit back then. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. But it was about what I perceived at age 15, a lot about money. And I don't think it was a lack of money, I think it was about the management of money. By the way, they have celebrated 53 years of marriage.
Wow.
So, what that drove was a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting, a lot of nights where I maybe stayed in my room or left and went out with buddies and just ignored the whole thing. And then at age 17, I went on I guess it was a mission trip of some sort. I went on a week-long thing down to Missouri where I actually became saved and I got to know Jesus Christ for the first time at age 17. And That year of 1993 was one of the greatest years for our family. I got saved. This is the funny part. I came home, told my parents they're all going to hell. I don't recommend that's how you witness to people. But our whole family ended up accepting Christ within that 6 to 18 month period. And this is where what I learned perseverance from in the area of money and relationship is at that point my parents got two coaches, or what I recognize as two coaches. They got a financial coach to help them talk about money, and they started taking a class at their church called Heirs Together, which happens to have a lot of things to it, but some of it was surrounded around money and how we are heirs to Christ's throne, right? So watching what my parents went through and the struggles they went through came in big time that I did not want to do that. I did not want to have those arguments anymore or in my household. So what did I do when I was 22, 23, 24 years old? I met a girl and immediately went into 8 years of arguing about money. To where my perseverance story comes in, to where I was in a relationship with her, and over that 8 period of time, I went thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt without owning a home. Okay, excuse me, guys. So I went into hundreds of thousands of dollars, almost $180,000 in debt because of poor decisions and arguing about money and not being on the same page about money, because that's the subject that I'm supposed to talk about, right? Many other things went into that. We argued 24/7. At that point, I thought some of my dreams were dead. I thought, there's no way I'm getting that house with land. Thank you. Thank you. I think I'm done with the crying part, I hope. I didn't think I was going to get the land. I didn't think I was going to get the marriage I wanted. I didn't think I was going to be able to help other people because there's no chance I was even to help myself. I was getting help from my parents at that point because they figured out their finances and they had money to help me. So part of that, during that period of time, a couple things that that was very helpful is I was part of an organization that they had talks every month, and a lot of the things I heard were some interesting verses. I might have mixed it up on the crew back there. Can you put up one of my first verses? Do the next one. Sorry about that. I might have you come back to the other. There you go. Okay. So one of the verses I heard from a businessman, a very wealthy businessman, where it says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." And in my simple mind back then, I said, I don't want to die, right? So I continued to focus on my vision. My visions, again, were the strong marriage, the land, and but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. So obviously I was in that relationship, struggled immensely for 8 years, and eventually I took the second half of that verse, but he that keepeth the law, happy as he is. I had a prayer with God. I met with God, and I said, okay, God, I'm not getting anywhere. My dreams are almost dead. I'm going to go ahead and do everything that you told me to do. I'm going to start going to church on a regular basis. I'm going to find a small group. I'm going to do everything I can to make my visions and dreams come true. And within a week, the problem left. I didn't have to do anything. The problem left. But during my perseverance of going $180,000 in debt, that was on October 5th, 2005, I got busy. I went and got two other jobs right away. I was working my corporate job 8 to 5. Then I would work delivering pizzas from 5:30 to 2 in the morning. And then I would deliver pizzas from 2:30 to 4:30. And I'd go home and I'd get 2 hours of sleep. And do it again and again and again. I did that for about 3 or 4 months. And then realized one of those wasn't yielding the time that, the amount of money I needed for the time that I was putting into. I went down to 2 jobs. So for about 3 years, I got about 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night, worked 100 hours a week. I had 3 days off a year, Christmas, Easter, and Thanksgiving. Remember that, Mom and Dad? Worked my butt off. One little note I have here is, if you don't give up on your dreams, God will protect your dreams. God will protect your visions. He gave them to you, guys. He did. If you had a vision that you had from when you were 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, he gave you that for a reason. He will not let that dream die because he gave it to you. Kind of like Cataline talked about his story. He's like, I thought I was going to be a pastor in Romania, and then God had me marry a woman, and now I'm in America, and I thought that dream was dead or different, right? Here's a quote by Ben Franklin, and it kind of goes with, don't let your dream die. Ben Franklin said a quote, he goes, too often men die at age 25. The problem is they're not buried until they're 75. Right? Because they lived 50 years without a dream. Don't give up on your dream. All right. Let me see what my next page says here. So my second dream was the land, the home with the land. And some of you guys have been to our house, and we've gotten there. And the reason why I always wanted a home with land is I remember all the fun I had at my parents'. My parents had 4 acres, or 3.5, 4 acres. We had go-karts, snowmobiles, four-wheelers, three-wheelers. We had a hockey room in our basement where we played hours and hours upon hockey and ping pong, and it was a great time. And my parents set a standard to where, well, I felt it was a standard. I don't know if it's the right standard, but every single one of my friends always came to my house. I never went to theirs because we had the fun house. So that was a dream that I had, is I wanted the fun house. One, because I'm protective of my kids, and I want to know what they're doing. I'm sure their friends' parents are good, but I don't know what goes on at their house. So I wanted to have the fun house, and that was my goal. Now we have a house that has a lot of acreage to be able to do some of the things we want to do and obtain. And that was kind of a dream my mom and dad gave me. That was fun times. Baseball in the backyard. There was a summer of '87, all my buddies, every day. Didn't even have to call each other. We just showed up and we played baseball in the backyard for 9 hours. So I wanted that for my family, and it looks like that might happen. And then the third dream I had was help others get ahead. And ironically, I didn't know my job was going to be a financial advisor, but that's ultimately really what a financial advisor does, is help people reach their goals and dreams. And that's not just my job that I met that goal. Is I look at mission trips. Katie and I talked about this last night. Katie's gone on mission trips. I have zero desire to go on mission trips, but I don't have any problems funding them, sending them on mission trips. Helping churches, helping people go. On that, I just don't desire to do that, and it's different for everybody, right? Can you put up the next verse? I kind of mixed it up on you. Yeah. So this, I would have to say, this verse, a good person leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And it says, but the sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. So the first half of that verse is, again, it rolls right into what I do as a career. But at the flip side, I heard that probably when I was 18 years old from, you guys, mom and dad are probably thinking of who I'm hearing it from. And it kind of changed my life. It really did. It kind of was my focus. That's probably my number one vision since I was about 17 years old. And how funny it was that I became a financial advisor, because inheritance is what I help people try to leave behind for their kids. And I wanted to be that good person, so not trying to brag, but it looks like Katie and I are going to be able to take care of our children's too, if we do it right, And then the second half of that verse, but the sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. So when I was $180,000 in debt, I feel like that was stolen by a sinner. I'm not calling that person I was with a sinner, but just it was stolen because of some people taken. So I feel like there's a great transition of wealth coming, not only for me, but for our church and for America right now. But that's a whole other hour talk. But those are my three visions, and I feel like, there's many other visions I had along the way. Good, solid marriage, which, if you guys know Katie, we have that. It's been fun. We don't argue about money, so that's, vision number one has come true. Vision number two of having a nice house has come true. And vision number three of me being able to help people get ahead, whether it's financially, spiritually, emotionally, relationally. I feel like I've helped a lot of people go through some of the struggles I went through. They came to me. I had a buddy call me at 2 a.m. one morning and said, "Hey, I'm going through this. I'm just starting what you went through. Can you come meet me?" And it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and we met in Perkins. So I feel like I'm living all three visions right now, and I think I'm good.
Thanks, Jeff. I knew Jeff for years, and actually I witnessed your hard work and your dedication, and just, I had to get out of this debt. I gotta get out. I just cannot be here anymore. And your passion and your desire, you put your goals on the walls and you look at them and you just pursue them. And that's what I think vision is all about. It's not just about something in our mind, out somewhere and kind of in the clouds. It has to be physical, has to be in front of us, has to be pursued, because that's what God wants from us. And I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate your story, because inspire and empower other people. Also, years ago, we met Deb and Dave, a great couple, that they had a different story. And I will let you share that.
I'm Deb Thompson. Dave is now the proud winner of an OCD award.
On Tuesday night at Dream Night, he won the OCD award because he loves to put the curtains up properly, which I appreciate.
And we also have 4 amazing grown children and an amazing daughter-in-law and son-in-law. Okay, throughout my testimony, you'll see many ways God was there for us. I was diagnosed in late 2010 with breast cancer. I had a mastectomy, and the oncologist recommended chemo. She told us that it would reduce my chances by about 25% of recurring breast cancer. One possible side effect, though, was that the treatment had a 1% chance of me getting treatment-induced acute myeloid leukemia, TAML. Dave and I decided to take the chance and have the chemo. About 6.5 years later, on August 25th, 2017, I was diagnosed with TAML. I was the 1%. We were told the only possible cure was to get me into remission with chemo and then have a stem cell transplant. When we asked what would happen if I didn't have the treatment, we were told I would have 2 weeks to 2 months to live. That night, Dave went home, and I stayed at the hospital because the next morning I was going to get a port and chemo was going to start. When Dave came back to the hospital the next morning, we cried out to the Lord to please give us more time together. Dave slept in the same hospital and lodge room as me for the next 8 months of this treatment. Not very comfortable. They started the chemo. My chance of getting into remission with the first chemo was just 50-50. In the background, Cataline, Kelly, and Hope Church and all my family and friends were putting out the word, and prayers were going up all over the world. After a couple weeks in the hospital, one night I couldn't sleep. I was up all night singing worship songs in my head. And then I got a word from God. He told me to tell my parents that God has got this. He repeated this to me 3 times and said he loved me. When Dave woke up, I was so excited, and I told him I had to tell my parents, God has got this. It really gave Dave and I a peace knowing that God had this. The first chemo didn't work. The next chemo was only 35% successful in getting a person into remission, but it got me into remission. We moved on to the University of Minnesota for the transplant. When we first met the doctor, he went through all the steps involved in a stem cell transplant, and after each step he would say, and then you could die. My daughter, Dave, and I sat silent after he left the room, and then we agreed that he was talking from a science perspective. We were looking through a faith perspective. God worked here also because Dave had got new insurance through a new employer in 2017. If he had had his old insurance, the U of M couldn't have done my transplant because they were in a dispute with the insurance company. Once in remission, I had to go through a week of testing to make sure I was healthy enough for a stem cell transplant. At the same time, they were testing my siblings to see if any would be a match to donate their stem cells. When I got the call with the results, they told me I should buy a lottery ticket because I was so lucky that I had 2 brothers that were perfect matches. The final step was a bone marrow biopsy. We were sure I was getting the transplant, but then the doctor called and said there was 1 suspicious cell in the biopsy, and his inclination was just to go ahead and do the transplant. But he brought my case before a conference of cancer doctors, and the consensus was that I should have consolidation chemo to get rid of that suspicious cell. So I had that chemo and got to go home for Thanksgiving. I enjoyed a family Thanksgiving feast that Dave and the kids put together. And the next day, when I had my PICC line cleaned, something happened, and I was admitted to the ICU with sepsis. I was in the hospital for about a week and then had to redo the week-long test to see if I was healthy for the transplant. And this time the bone marrow biopsy came back clean. Praise God. On December 26, 2017, I signed the contract, and they gave me a room in the hospital on the 27th and started the preparation with full body radiation to get ready for the transplant. I received my transplant on January 3rd, 2018. Pastor Brian and Jackie came to the hospital to pray over the stem cells and over the procedure. They have an amount of stem cells that they need to have it be successful from the donor. My brother exceeded by a large margin the amount needed. I had a tough 5 weeks in the hospital on pain meds because of something called mucositis, which is a result of a chemo they give to prevent rejection of the stem cells. I was unable to eat for a couple weeks. One of the big concerns for a stem cell transplant is something called graft versus host. They had to watch very carefully for 100 days after the transplant that this doesn't happen. So I had to have someone with me for 24 hours a day for 100 days. Dave would leave to work in the morning when my sister came. Then my son John would come to relieve her in the afternoon, which was another God thing because my son had quit his job a couple weeks before I was diagnosed to decide what he wanted to do in his life. He ended up taking a whole year off to be one of my caregivers and take care of our house while I was in treatment. And when Dave would get back from work, he would take over. We were staying at a place called Hope Lodge, run by the Cancer Society, because you couldn't be more than a half hour away from the hospital in case the graft versus host would happen or anything else. I was extremely blessed and thank God that I never got this graft versus host. This Hope Lodge was amazing. It provided us a room and bathroom and a kitchen area to cook food just blocks from the clinic. Churches and nonprofits would bring meals and special treats once a week and during holidays. Friends and families would pop in to visit and bring meals. Through the whole 8 months of treatment, we met many people with the same cancer. Sadly, many of them died. Statistically, my chances of surviving this was 25%. They kept telling us if I can make it 2 years, my diagnosis would be good. I also want to point out how blessed we were by so many people. People visited, brought gifts, brought food, and especially people prayed. Many of the people here, we are so thankful and will never forget their kindness. Interestingly, my blood DNA is now my brother's, and my saliva DNA is still mine. The doctor said if I was involved in a crime to leave blood, not saliva. I also needed to get all my baby immunizations again since this transplant made it like I was a newborn. Here I am, 4 years after the transplant, and just found out on Friday that I have papillary thyroid carcinoma. Another bump in the road, but Dave and I and the kids are all trusting God has got this. Whatever you guys are going through, please remember God's got this, and to God be the glory.
Sometimes we receive vision or just a word from God. It can be just a Bible verse, can be just a quote. And sometimes we get inspired by that, and we have to hold on to that to be able to pursue it and move forward. I'm not sure where you are in your walk with God, or I'm not sure where you are, if you are in the valley or you are on the top of the mountain right now. But this I know, God can give you a vision to look forward to it and to pursue it. And that vision, it's you to figure it out. But also, you have to be very intentional in just putting, like we talked a few weeks back, to write it down. And you know what? Pray and go to God. And He wants, this is a beauty in receiving a vision from God. He desires to reveal that vision for us. We need just to go to Him to ask for it. So,
I just loved, Jeff, what you said about, like, if there's something inside of you since you were young, God put that there, and He will fulfill it. And just the faith of you and Dave and your family and Jeff, of that perseverance. I mean, both of these stories have an intense amount of perseverance in them. And so, like, it's not easy to reach that point. It's not easy to keep going, and when you're in the middle of it. But it's so worth it. And when we have that word from the Lord, when we have those dreams that are in us, and we keep them in front of us, then we know where we're headed. And because it's easy to get overwhelmed in the middle of it, you know? And so I just admire both of you so very much. And just the faithfulness of all of you guys, and the friendship that we've had. And I mean, Deb took care of Benny once a week since he was 8 weeks old. She would do that so that I could work. And yeah, she's like very special to him. He's watching live stream. Say hello.
Hi, Benny.
Hi, Benny. And Jeff and Katie, got to be there at your wedding, and it's just so amazing. I'm so thankful.
So the vision that we receive from God, it's actually not just for our own benefits. It's for the benefits of all around us. It's for the benefits of our families, for our children. The vision that we receive, it's for the benefit of the church, for the benefits of people around us, because they see God at work in our life. And then their desire to seek God and to have that what we have. Can you imagine to be $180,000 in debt or more, and then just people will have just quit life, or just like I'm just done. I will forever have those payments, and I'll just have to pay the interest only for the 50 years or so forth. But no. Jeff had a goal, he had a vision, he had a dream, and he pursued that. Also with Deb, So many opportunities that the enemy could brought, and enemy brought, like, it's not working, it's not worth it, just give up, you know? Why do you have to put your family through this? Just give up. But no, God had a word for her, and she held on to that word, that God got this. And you know what? God got a vision for each one of us. We have to just hold on to it, we have to embrace it, and we have to witness it. Because it's coming in my mind, the Bible verse from Revelation, I think it's 11:20, if I'm not wrong. But it's saying like this: the Christian, the believer, the children of God, overcome the enemy, overcome the schemes of the devil, overcome all the tests and trials by the blood of the Lamb, which is by Jesus Christ on the cross, and by the word of their testimonies. Your testimonies is very important and has power. Actually, the word testimony is coming from the Greek word, from the Latin word testis, that means witness. My question for each one of us is, for this year, 2022, what do we want to witness in our life? And let's go and make it happen. Because, you know, God has a plan for us. He has a vision for us, but He needs a partner to make it complete, to make it fulfill. So we get to partner with God. So my encouragement to each one of you today is that I hope through the month of January you realize that we need to receive that vision from God. Do not go through life without a vision. Do not go through life without a plan, because people perish because of lack of vision. But once what you receive it, don't just write it on a paper and put it in a file cabinet. Keep it in front of you. Develop steps and pursue it. Perseverance is going to take us further than we can even imagine. And you know what? It's going to be like a roller coaster. We are going to go up and down through the roller coaster. I'm sure Jeff had a roller coaster and Deb had a roller coaster. But you know what? God is going to help us to get to the top of the mountain and not just stay in the valley. We have to partner with God. And I would like to just take a moment right now to pray. If you are watching online or you are here, number one step in receiving the revelation, receive the vision, receive that word from God for our lives or for 2022 is to believe in God. Because it's impossible to receive something from someone that you don't believe exists. We need to realize, we need to understand that God exists. He created each one of us and He created you. And wherever you are right now, God wants to give you hope and a future. God wants to give you a vision for your life. And you know what? His vision is for us to get to a better place. But for you to be able to do that, you need to give your life to Christ. You have to accept Him in your life. And this is what I would like to do right now. If you want to start 2022 with a new adventure, with God on your side, it's very easy. Just repeat after me. Lord, I tried my own ways and I failed and failed and failed. 2022, I decide to go a different route. Because to get different results, we have to do different things. And today, in 2022, I ask you in my life. I give my life to you. I surrender to you. And I ask you to forgive my sins and empower me and help me to reach the vision that you have for me. I'm not sure how high or how low the roller coaster is going to take me. But with you on my side, I know I will come. I will come to the top of the mountain. So if you said that prayer with us today, I would like you to just let us know. If you are here in the sanctuary, please let us know at the back of the auditorium. We have a book that we'd like to give you that will help you grow in your relation with God. Also, if you are watching online, please go on our website and let us know that you would like to receive this book, and we will mail it to you. That being said, let's stand up and praise God with one more song.